All right, folks, it's lesson 168, and the title is Your Grace is Given Me, I Claim It Now. Okay, I'll go ahead and read the first paragraph. Everybody on it?
Got it.
Okay. God speaks to us. Shall we not speak to him? He is not distant. He makes no attempts to hide from us. We try to hide from him and suffer from deception. He remains entirely accessible. He loves his son. There is no certainty but this, yet this suffices. He will love his son forever. When his mind remains asleep, he loves him still. And when his mind awakes, he loves him with a never-ending love. Hello, Samir.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lesson 168, and we're doing paragraph 1 right now. So any comments or questions in that first paragraph?
Yeah, what the course calls, talks about love. It does not change at all. There is no change at all over time. God is. There's a line in the course that says God is, and then you cease to speak. It's just, he does not love you when you're a good boy, or hates you when you're a bad boy or a bad girl, good girl. God simply is love.
And okay, so God speaks to us. Okay, that means God speaks to us in each moment and in every interaction. The availability of God is there.
Mm-hmm.
And God, aka love, the availability of love is there. The choice for love is available to you. Shall we not speak to him? This means to align with love instead of the ego's mindset. He makes no attempt to hide from us. That means he's always just a choice away. No matter what the story seems to be, he's always just a choice away from you experiencing that grace, you experiencing that love. And then again, we try to hide from him. Anytime we're using the ego's mindset and its tools, we're hiding from God. So anytime we're using anything that's unloving in nature, we're in essence hiding from God. And then in sentence number 10, when his mind remains asleep, he loves him still. And so whenever you always want to try to be as God is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even when your brothers sleep, even when your brothers are attached to the ego's judgment-centric, fear-based mindset, you want to be as God is. You want to follow his example and just offer his grace to your brothers and sisters. Because since we're all one, it's only what you offer your brothers and sisters that you get to experience yourself. And so if you want grace, then you have to be able to offer grace. Yes, God is always going to offer you that grace. And so you don't have to work for that grace.
How do we offer grace, James? I thought only God can give you grace.
How do you offer grace? Just by seeing the truth in others as true and letting go of everything else. Okay, so if everything is love or a call for love, right? If your brother is being loving, then obviously it's easy for you to offer that grace, right? Now, if your brother's being unloving, all you have to do is remind yourself that's not the truth in him. He's not judgment. He's not anger. He's not resentment. He's not hatred. He's none of that. Even though he or she might be expressing that, that's not who they are. And so grace looks beyond what the dream into the reality. And so grace looks through your brothers and sisters' delusion of himself or herself into her true nature, which is a love and only love. And so you offer grace by choosing to see only the truth in them as true. You don't focus on the delusion. Because if you focus on the delusion, it only makes it bigger. And so it's harder to offer that grace. But if you place that delusion aside, because we have free will, right? So we can choose to focus on the delusion and thus make it a bigger part of our day and life. Or we can place that delusion aside and focus on only their loving nature as true. And that when you see only the love in them as true, all the other little fantasies fade away. But if you focus on the fantasies, then the fantasies become your reality. And so you have free will. In every moment and every interaction, you can offer that grace by seeing only the truth in them as true, or you can focus on whatever fantasy they may and you may be projecting.
Well, for that, we also have to overcome our trigger. Like if the brother is in the dream and he's saying something or she's saying something and they're triggering you, and does the trigger mean we're back in the dream?
No, the trigger means that you haven't left the dream. And so, okay, you're being triggered. You're being triggered because you have a false belief within you that is living inside of you rent free, right? And so a person A or B says something that triggers a false belief that you hold within you, right? So they're simply showing you what you're holding within you. And so when you realize that they are simply being a projection for you, so that you can see this stuff here, this false belief, you can see it out in the physical world, so that you can deal with it and forgive it. Then you see the service that they are providing to you. They are helping you release your false beliefs, that which separates you from grace. And so when you see that all they're doing when they're triggering you is that in reality, they're providing a service to you. They're helping you see what doesn't belong inside of you. They're helping you let go of your poisons. And so when you realize that all they're doing is freeing you from a world that you do not want, what is your response to them? It's gratitude. It's grace.
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. Any other comments or questions from paragraph 1? All right. Somebody like to read paragraph 2?
I can read it.
Okay.
If you but knew the meaning of his love, hope and despair would be impossible, for hope would be forever satisfied, despair of any kind unthinkable. His grace, his answer, is to all despair, for in it lies remembrance of his love. Would he not gladly give the means by which his will is recognized? His grace is yours by your acknowledgment, and memory of him awakens in the mind, and that asks the means of him whereby its sleep is done.
Okay, in sentence number 5, his grace is yours by your acknowledgement. And so all the course is ever asking for is a little willingness. A little willingness to see in alignment with God, with love. And when you see in alignment with love, when you see through love's lens, that's when you experience grace. And when you're aligned with grace, you offer that grace to all your brothers and sisters because you recognize that you're all one.
This is so beautiful. I love this whole conversation about grace. What came to mind in the other paragraph was, at least for me and my life experience, I've done a lot of things that I know I needed to experience them, and I know that I can use them to help other people. So I understand how all of it goes full circle. But the healing and the forgiveness that I've been able to give myself, because I do believe that God doesn't see that, and that God forgives me, and that God loves me unconditionally. I think of that when I am in a place where I'm resentful towards someone, or I feel like someone has wronged me. Like, I think of how I have felt the love and like the unconditional love of God, and how can I then go and give that to somebody else? Like, how can I mimic that same grace that I feel like I've experienced individually with God to someone else? And then I'm reading back in paragraph 1 where it says, he loves him with a never changing love. And I just wrote down, like, may I love with a never changing love. Like, if my desire and my love for God inspires me to embody the character of God and be that on earth, then may I too be one that can go out into the world and love with a never changing love, regardless of what may be going on or the way that people act. It's not easy, but I've had glimpses of it, like I've definitely had glimpses where things are happening and it's completely rolling off my back and I'm able to see past the illusion. And then I've had, of course, glimpses where I'm like super in ego and super tight, and I'm not able to see past it. But the gift, I think, of being on this journey is that you do have those glimpses of being able to extend that grace that we've experienced and that unconditional love to others, that like you now have, like, at least for me, it's been like, oh, I have a new bar. Like, I want to hit that. Like, I want to feel that way. I want to be able to see things that way. And I want to be able to extend love that way. So this has been very helpful. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, it's simple and easy when all you try to do is be as God is. That's your only job, is to do what God what love would do. And so the ego would say, well, that's very difficult. But it's more difficult not to be who you truly are. So who you truly are is that all-encompassing love. Well, that's what the Course calls the effortless accomplishment. It's an effortless accomplishment because your natural state is to be loving to all. And so when you're not being loving to all, then something, as the Course would say, something has gone wrong. That's in the Course in Miracles, Principles of Miracles.
Mm-hmm.
When a miracle is not, when you don't see the miracle, something's going wrong. And so all you have to do is recognize, okay, am I at peace? Am I being forgiving and graceful? Yes. Okay. I'm in alignment with the mind of God. I'm where I belong. I'm doing what God created me to do and be and share and enjoy. And when you're not being loving or forgiving or compassionate or graceful, then you're not being who you were created to be. You're being a manufactured self. You're buying into the ego's past programming instead of who you truly are. And that is harder than being who you truly are. Faking it is harder than just being who you truly are. And so whenever the ego tells you, no, it's too difficult to forgive, or it's too difficult to be compassionate or kind in this moment with this exact person, that's the difficult part. And that's why you feel guilt and shame and sadness and regret, because you're not doing what God created you to do. But to let go of all that stuff, all you have to do is to do what God created you to do, to offer that grace, that compassion, that forgiveness and mercy and understanding. Do that and you'll have peace. Don't do that and you won't have peace. Any other comments or questions on paragraph 2? I'll read paragraph 3. Today we ask of God the gift he has most carefully preserved within our hearts, waiting to be acknowledged. This, the gift by which God leans to us and lifts us up, taking salvation's final step himself. All steps but this we learn, instructed by his voice. But finally he comes himself and takes us in his arms and sweeps away the cobwebs of our sleep. His gift of grace is more than just an answer. It restores all memories the sleeping mind forgot, all certainty of what love really means, love's meaningless. And so when you, his sentence number 5, his gift of grace is more than just an answer. It restores all memories the sleeping mind forgot. And so grace is just a doorway to help you recall who you truly are and what you're here to do. And so when a brother or sister offers you the opportunity to offer grace, they're offering you an opportunity to recall who you truly are and thus to reinforce who you truly are. And the more you reinforce who you truly are, the easier and more normal it becomes to be graceful, to offer grace. And so whenever your brother or sister trigger you, all that is an opportunity to practice grace. Oh, thank you, brother A or B, for triggering me, because that gives me the opportunity right now to offer grace. And then the more I offer my brother or sister grace, the more normal and natural that reaction becomes to me. And the more natural and normal it becomes, the easier it is. And the more I reinforce it within myself. And then the stronger my foundation in grace is. Any other comments or questions in paragraph 3? All right. Mike, you want to read paragraph 4?
Sure. God loves his son. Request him now to give the means by which this world will disappear, and vision first will come with knowledge but an instant later. For in grace you see a light that covers all the world in love, and watch fear disappear from every face, as hearts rise up and claim the light as theirs. What now remains that heaven be delayed an instant longer? What is still undone when your forgiveness rests on everything?
And so in line number 1, God loves his son.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever the course says God does anything, take it as an opportunity to do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
put yourself in God's place, because you're supposed to be doing that. And so God loves his son, and so you're supposed to love his son, no matter how much they trigger you. And especially when they trigger you, love them more, because all they're doing is showing you that you're holding something within you that is not God-like.
Mm-hmm.
Sentence number 2, request him now to give the means by which this world will disappear. And so when you align with his loving nature, the ego's world and mindset begins to disappear. And it says here, and vision first will come. Vision is seen with the eyes of God. That's true vision. Viewing the world through love's lens. Sentence number 3, for in grace you see a light that covers all the world in love. And so when you decide to place grace as your viewing lens, If you practice, okay, today I'm going to practice offering grace to everybody God sends my way. And so when you do that, when you practice offering grace to everybody that God sends your way, then the world is covered in this loving light.
Mm-hmm.
And fear disappears from every heart. Any comments or questions on that paragraph?
No.
So this last part that says, what is still undone when your forgiveness rests on everything. Can you just go to that?
That means what illusions are you still buying into when you, through forgiveness, let go of the ego's mindset and world? And so the Course says that forgiveness is the last illusion, because it shows you that everything that you had to forgive was not real in the first place. So it shows you the illusionary nature of all your judgments. So when you align with forgiveness, when you offer that forgiveness, and you offer that forgiveness for everything and all, that's when the ego's mindset dissolves away. And all that is left is your peace of mind and joy.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments or questions on paragraph 4?
I'll read the next one.
Okay, go ahead.
It is a new and holy day today, for we receive what has been given us. Our faith lies in the giver, not our own acceptance. We acknowledge our mistakes, but he to whom all errors is unknown is yet the one who answers our mistakes by giving us the means to lay them down and rise to him in gratitude and love. That is such a beautiful paragraph. And it just makes me think about what I was sharing earlier, where the errors that I have made, those are unknown, right, to God. Like God overlooks all of that. And that, like how this tells me that I can give them and lay them down and just be thankful and find that place of love. I think it sums up so much of what we're talking about in regards to grace. It's really, really beautiful.
Yeah, and so that's a good that is a good practice, just to wake up and try to offer that grace no matter what happens. Let's say we practice this tomorrow. And so we wake up deciding to make grace our constant companion. And so before every interaction, we align with the energy of grace. And we go into the interaction, or we go before we open any email, and we say, okay, I'm going to open and read this email with grace. I'm going to go and eat the lunch in this place and offer everybody there my grace. I'm going to go to work in my car and drive in the highway during traffic hours. But I'm going to do so with grace as my companion. And so how many times can I offer grace to another during the day? And then the more times you consciously offer grace to another brother or sister, because we're all one, right? If we're all one, we're healing our own selves. And so your brother and sister is helping you heal yourself. And
So this line, we acknowledge our mistakes, but he to whom all error is unknown is yet the one who answers a mistake. I don't quite understand it.
You know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
important. It's important to look at our mistakes. You know, the times that we have failed other people, they're angry.
Yeah, your audio is a little bit off.
Hey, is it on? You hear
No,
me?
it's not off, but it's a little bit quiet, a little.
Muffled.
Yeah, a little muffled.
Yeah, let me try something here. Can you hear me better?
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that's good.
Oh, okay.
should do the class like that.
We acknowledge our mistakes. We tend to blame all kinds of things out there for what happens. I got angry because this person sent me a nasty email, or I'm this way because my parents did this and that. And what we do is we acknowledge that anytime we have failed somebody else, anytime we have fallen into a temptation and been nasty to somebody, or we acknowledge it. It's a mistake that we did. It's our mistake, but we don't have to hang on to it. It says the one who answers our mistakes by giving us the means to lay them down. My audio still on?
Yeah.
Okay. We acknowledge our mistakes. We don't say, oh, well, I got angry because this person or that person. No. I made a mistake. So, I've made lots of other mistakes. We just be willing to just be forgiven for it. Yeah, I made a mistake. I recognize it. I see it. And God gives us a way to lay them down, just leave him behind, Yeah, I made a mistake. Now I have a chance to choose once again, to choose differently. Thank you.
Yeah.
You know that whole Ho'oponopono prayer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with seeing that you were out of alignment with a loving thought,
Mm-hmm.
a loving act. There's nothing wrong with that. The Course
Yeah.
says mistakes are for correction and nothing else.
Right.
So there's no need to punish yourself when you've made a mistake. Just recognize that you can do differently. You can do better. You can
Mm-hmm.
more
Yeah.
lovingly. And so we acknowledge our mistakes, but he to whom all error is unknown, God of
Mm-hmm.
course, is yet the one who answers our mistakes by giving us the means to lay them down.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks to him in gratitude and love. And so you basically want to try and do what God does.
Mm-hmm.
And
There's
yeah,
I was going to say, there's a lot of things that say the same thing as the Course. I was thinking of that Ho'oponopono prayer. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Just recognize, yeah, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you.
That's basically the Course right there.
Sure. The Course says that this Course is a special form of the universal Course. There's many other forms for somebody who doesn't jive with this Course. There are other things, that can help you. My experience is this was the thing that helped me the most. There are other things that I've done a whole lot of other things that were all helpful. My experience is that what I have found the most helpful was the Course. It's not the only helpful thing in this world, but for me is what it was the most helpful.
So with the Ho'oponopono, I was actually taught, and I don't know if maybe I misunderstood what you said, but I was taught that the forgive me part is actually asking the person for forgiveness because they signed up to play this role so that I could learn a lesson. And so it's asking them for forgiveness that they had to be this trigger in my life to show me what it is that I need to learn, if that makes any sense. Yes. I don't know, whatever you said, I interpreted it differently than that.
Yes, I'm both, The only question we ask about anything in this world is what purpose does it serve? Either one of those interpretations, whatever it is that is helpful to us at this time. James always talks about the gratitude. Yeah, it goes to that. That other person is really giving us an opportunity to look at our mistakes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in a higher realm, they have volunteered to come to us, so that we
Mm-hmm.
can project onto them our misperceptions.
Mm-hmm.
And so, appreciation is all you can offer somebody who volunteered to help you heal.
Mm-hmm.
The ego cannot see that, but you can bypass the ego.
Mm-hmm.
So ego has never really offered you anything you truly wanted, or has never made you feel peace, true peace of mind, everlasting peace of mind and joy.
Mm-hmm.
And so, look upon that person who's triggering you as a volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
Out of 8 billion people on this planet, he or she volunteered for you because she or she was the perfect person for your trigger.
Mm-hmm.
And so each person that you judge out of 8 billion people, that was the person who chose you, who chose to help you heal.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
when you recall, out of 8 billion people, it was this person who came into my life so that I can release my misperceptions, align with
Mm-hmm.
my true self, and offer my true self to others so that I feel fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
What
Yeah.
other than appreciation could you have for such people?
Yeah. Line 3 says, we acknowledge our mistakes. It's not that, this happened, you did something that made me angry. No, what I acknowledge is I got angry. We acknowledge our mistakes, whether they appear to be justified or not, whether the other person did something intentionally trying to get me angry, or the other person just says something that I misinterpreted and I got angry. Either way, it's the same thing. It's not about the other person. We acknowledge our mistakes. Yeah, I made a mistake. Then it's to who, but he to whom all errors are known is yet the one who answers our mistakes. Yeah, I made a mistake, but God forgives me. All I have to do is recognize that, yes, God forgives me. All I have to do is recognize it's a mistake and leave it behind. That's all. Mistakes are for correction and nothing else.
Yeah, and so this is number one. It is a new and holy day today. Just remember that every day is a new and holy day.
Mm-hmm.
For we receive what has been given us. And so all we have to do is offer to others what God has given to us. Pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
God has given to us that grace.
Mm-hmm.
All we have to do today is offer that grace to others.
Mm-hmm.
And so, forgive them their trespasses, for they know not what they do. So, or forgive them
Right. Right.
as He has forgiven our trespasses. And so, all we're being asked to do today is what God has offered us.
Mm-hmm.
All God is asking us to offer to others is what He offered to us.
Mm-hmm.
And I
So,
was thinking of, oh, sorry. Finish.
go
Go
ahead,
ahead.
please. Go ahead.
Um, and I was thinking yesterday after the class and after I shared, what was it that because I was sharing how I feel like my ego has taken over. And then now even like listening to you guys again, I thought about how when Peter denies Jesus, and even in that denying of him, like the church was still built on him. And to me,
Mm-hmm.
that's such a reflection of God and God's grace. How, like, we can fall short, but God is still going to do beautiful things for us and in our lives. And we're still going to help others. And no matter what we experience, like, we're going to be able to fall short and then use it and contribute to the greater good of the world, you know? And so even if, yeah, because I was thinking about my whole ego thing, and I was just like, you know what? It's okay. Like God will still use every bit of like my journey and my story. And like what you guys shared with me yesterday was so helpful, just to reframe it, you know, in the way that I'm starting, because it has felt pretty loud recently, that I'm
Mhm.
just becoming even more aware of it.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like imagine imagine God takes little Christina to the park, right? And God has little Christina play with the other kids in the little sandlot, right? And then little Christina's really happy to be playing there. Sometimes she's not so happy with the other kids, but then she something happens, right? And then little Christina starts running back to God, and little Christina falls, and she shakes it off and stands up again and goes keeps running towards God. God doesn't love little Christina any less because she fell. In fact, God is really happy that when she fell, she got up again, and and that she dusted herself off. And so God is always looking. If just imagine having a child and loving the love that you have for that child,
Mhm.
and then imagine God, the love that God has for you because you are His child in creation. And so imagine the love that you would have multiplied by infinity and eternity. That's the love that God has for you. But we think that when we fall or trip and fall, somehow God doesn't love us anymore, or He's judging us. No, God is just He's He's smiling away, because He knows every step you take, you're taking towards Him. And so all you have to do is visualize that whenever you're
Mhm.
in a less than loving mindset. Let's just you just tripped. Okay, you just tripped, and God is looking at you through on the bench, and He's happy that you're getting up and dusting yourself off, and you keep coming towards Him.
I think the guilt is that I'm not I see it, but I'm not dusting myself off. I'm like still playing in it. You know what I mean? Like when you're like, wait, but I shouldn't be doing this. And then you're just like, whatever, I'm gonna do it, you know? Like you know better, but you're not doing better, and you don't care to do better right now, you know? And so I think I'm thinking about, I think Charles said it yesterday, where I'm like praying for the willingness, you know, like I'm just
Mhm.
like, okay, well, like, may I be willing, just like, may I be willing to forgive someone? May I be willing to not engage like with my ego and like the toys that it's bringing to me, you know, like that's what I feel like I'm playing with toys of my
Mhm.
ego, and like, can I be willing to not? Um,
Mhm.
so I think that's the hard part, where I'm like, wow, I'm completely engaging, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and remember when you're engaging, it's only within the concept of time. And so whatever amount of time you're engaging that in that mindset that's less than loving in nature, it's just a blink in eternity's eyes.
Yeah.
You are eternal. This is just a momentary game we're playing.
Yeah.
And so no matter how much the ego says you should judge yourself for being out of alignment with the mind of God, it's just a moment in eternity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
love that.
yeah, I have to go. I got to do that other class. Okay.
All right. All right. Bye.
See you guys next week.
See you Sunday, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
But I love that, James, because it's true. I can see how sometimes my ego gets very narrow focused, but if I zoom out and look at like the bigger picture, it's like this too shall pass. And it already has started. Like I'm already like, oh, okay, not a big deal. Oh, okay, let's move on. You know what I mean? Like the grip doesn't feel like it felt a few weeks ago. And and it's true. Like when I zoom out And then even with you saying like eternity, and I'm like, right, like this is a blink in eternity, so that's very true. I really appreciate you helping me zoom out and look at the bigger picture.
Lovely. Paragraph 6. Samir, would you like to go ahead and
Yeah. And he descends to meet us as we come to him. For what he has prepared for us, he gives and we receive. Such is his will, because he loves his Son. To him we pray today, returning, but the word he gave to us through his own voice, his word, his love. Your grace is given me. I claim it now. Father, I come to you, and you will come to me who ask. I am the Son you love.
lovely? Yes, let's practice grace this week, even tomorrow, even today, even whatever thoughts we're having right now, that we haven't offered ourselves grace. Think about a thought or a situation right now that you haven't offered yourself grace. And if you want to share it, share it, and then we could talk through it.
Well, I have one situation.
Okay.
I used to have um, a brokerage account in my dad's name, and there weren't any taxes issued with it because it was a foreign account. And a few years ago, my mom came on me and said, she was just very nasty and mean, saying, you haven't shut this account down. What if your dad gets in trouble and this and that? I'm like, Mom, there is no issue. And I mean, she came really harsh and was saying like really, really bad things, like was very meaning. So I shut the account down, and it costed me a lot in terms of my livelihood. And I still haven't been able to get over it. It's a lot of money. Two, it affects my livelihood to go from a foreign account to a U.S. account. Um, and I'm still wondering, like, maybe I probably wouldn't have moved to Florida if I hadn't, you know, had that issue. So maybe there was a blessing that that thing happened. I moved from New York because of that. But it's still something in the back of my mind that, like my mom says, "Oh, I miss you," and this, and I'm like, do you know how much trouble you put me through? Like how much my life has changed because of your tantrum. That my dad passed away a year later. It was like zero risk to the whole story, but it just affected me, and it's also my livelihood, and I don't want to have resentment towards my mom, but there's still some of that left of the kind of things she said. And she didn't even say it. She just messaged a whole bunch of mean things. And hey, it's just money, but I'm sure I'm doing fine. I'm living here, so um, I would like to let go of it.
Yeah, first, remember that everybody always does the best they can with the emotional, spiritual, and physical tools that they have available to them in that moment. Okay? So your mom, as imperfect as she might have been, okay, she did the best she could with the tools she had available to her. And when somebody's doing the best they can with the tools they have available to them, isn't appreciation the proper response to somebody who's doing the best they can or offering the best they can in that moment with the tools they have?
Mhm.
So just remember, each one of us, no matter what the Eagle says about levels, each one of us is always at our highest level of consciousness and self-awareness. Okay? So we're all always doing the best we can with what we have. And so no matter how a person acts, reacts, that's the best they can do in that moment. And so when we see, okay, this person did the best they could, let me recognize that they did the best they could, and Now let me decide, let me trust in God's plan for the universe, not in my plan for the universe, not in my ego's plan, in God's plan. Because if you trust in your plan for the universe, maybe you felt better in staying in New York or what have you. But and then you got here to Florida, and then you lacked peace in regards to the move. Why? Because you're trusting in the ego's plan for the universe, not in God's. If you were to actually practice trusting in God's plan for the universe, you could never not have peace. You can never not be joyous. You can never not be in a state of gratitude and awe. And so when you lack peace in regards to anybody or any situation, know what's really happening. What's really happening is that the ego has taken control of your mind. And so the ego is thinking for you and living your life for you. And you're following the blind. If you follow the blind, you will fall into the same pit as the blind. And so, okay, I'm judging my mom right now. Man, but she did the best she could. She did the best she could with the tools she had. And I know that she loves me. You know, after all is said and done, I know she loves me. And I know she wants the best for me. And so let me try not to view her through my eyes, aka through the ego's eyes, through judgment and resentment and pain. That's the ego's eyes. That's the ego's lens. Let me stop that. Let me consciously stop viewing my mom through the ego's lens. And now let me choose to view her through love's lens, through God's lens, with God's eyes. How would your mother appear if you viewed her through God's eyes? With the grace of God. How would that make you feel? How would it make you feel?
Love.
If you offer your mom that grace, the same grace that God offers you each and every day. That's all God is. That is all God is asking you to do. He's asking you to offer your mom the grace that He offers you. Is that not fair? Can you not do that for God, who does that for you every single day of your life? And so decide, make a conscious decision and say to yourself, I am done judging my mom for her behavior. I'm done.
I'm actually judging myself for feeling guilt tripped into doing that. It's like, why did I have to feel so guilty and succumb to that guilt and shut the account down when I said, no, I'm not shutting it down yet right now, or something like that. It's just the guilt. Like I've been living with this guilt syndrome my entire life with her, and I just want to give up the guilt, live in guilt.
Well, that's where grace against comes in. Offer yourself grace. You can have grace, or you can have guilt. But you can't have both at the same time. Now you have to ask yourself, what am I worthy of as God's child in creation? Am I worthy of guilt, or am I worthy of grace? And then you know what the answer is. So stop supporting the answer that's not working for you. Let that go. Let the guilt go. Every time the guilt comes calling, say no. I am not supporting you anymore as true. I'm not supporting this story because that's all it is a story. Okay? I'm not supporting the story as true anymore. Every time the ego whispers guilt to me, I'm now going to use that not to dive deeper into the darkness, but instead to offer myself grace, to practice offering myself grace. And so when each and every time the guilt comes in, you instead stop it and say, okay, this is a perfect opportunity that God and the universe are offering me to practice offering myself grace and practice remembering that I am worthy of grace. And then you do that over and over again until you start to feel, you know what? Yeah, I am worthy of grace. And guess who in the end taught you that? Helped you teach that? Helped you teach that? Your mom. It was your mom's interaction with you that brought you to this place where you now make a conscious decision to choose grace over guilt. And so when you recognize that it was your mom who helped you now consciously choose grace over guilt, you cannot have anything other than appreciation for your mom. Because she's the one who's helping you awaken. She's the one who's helping you remember that you are worthy of grace when the delusion of guilt comes in. And then when you keep on offering yourself grace, then you'll start to feel it more and more inside of you. And then little by little will start to overflow. And then you'll be naturally offering grace to everybody and all who comes your way.
Mhm.
But it was only because you learned or you remembered that you are worthy of grace as God, being God's child in creation. That God needs you to accept his grace so that you can fulfill your function as the light of the world. And so from now on, any single time the fantasy of guilt comes in, just stop it right there in its tracks and say to it, I'm not going to sacrifice any more of my time, focus, and energy to you. I'm done. This story has ended. I'm closing the book on this fairy tale. And then use that same time, focus, and energy that you once sacrificed the delusion to only support the truth in you, which is that God loves you and that God knows that you're worthy of grace. And then after you've done that, always be sure to thank your mom. Inside your heart and mind, thank your mom, because she was the trigger that helped you remember that you're worthy of grace.
Hmm.
And do that each and every time until that becomes natural and normal to you to react in that manner. And when you do so, a lesson will be learned.
Okay.
Any comment, Christina?
Yeah, thank you for sharing that with us, Samir. And what comes to mind is just how, for me in my own experience, sometimes things have had to get really big or drastic for me to be awakened to what was going on. Like when you said that you've always felt like this shame or whatever it is that you felt in your dynamic with your mom, like maybe this is what had to happen for you to awaken to that, to realize that maybe you haven't spoken up for yourself, or maybe you haven't, held your ground. And maybe it's something bigger than just the account that you're so frustrated about. Maybe it's because you self-abandoned and did what she wanted you to do, like you were the same child that you were in the past, instead of doing what the adult self would have done. And we don't know whether the decision was right or wrong. I mean, the way that we frame the story to ourselves, I think, is also a big deal. And the story you're telling yourself right now is you're a victim of what happened, or that you did what she told you to do, but no one put a gun to your head. Like in the end, we take decisions and we make decisions, and we're not victims to what's really happening, because we have options and we have choices, and we make those choices. Now, do we make them based on what other people want us to do or pressure that we may feel? Yeah. And I think that what I've been learning in this season is how uncomfortable it is when I make decisions based on what others want me to do, when it's not really in alignment with what I want. But it's situations like yours that bring that to my forefront. And maybe there were smaller breadcrumbs along the way, but you needed this big situation for you to like wake up and be like, okay, like I'm an adult man. Why am I still acting this way? And what's underneath this? Because the whole account thing is on the surface level. But then also seeing the gift in it all. Maybe you wouldn't have moved down to Florida. Maybe you would have stayed where you were. Maybe in the end, like there was something that you were being protected from. Like we don't know, we may never know, but you're here now. So how can you reframe, given the circumstance, into making it something positive? Like if you didn't move to Florida, then maybe you would have never started coming to the course, and then we wouldn't have met you, and the life that you're now growing and expanding wouldn't have been the life that you would have been living. And so, at least for me, it's very easy for me to magnify the negative of things, but I think it's that muscle that we have to build to like start to reframe it. But it's like everything that we've been talking about this whole time, and like what James was saying, like these triggers and these people in our lives that are really showing us like, where am I not trusting the bigger plan of things? Where am I not trusting, where am I not trusting the bigger plan of things? Where am I not trusting that there was something for me to learn here, and that everything really is perfect in the end? And it's uncomfortable, but we're strong. Like, we can get through it. And the fact that we have this way of looking at life and circumstances, we'll be able to reframe it. And I'm thinking of what James said on Sunday about the digestion process. I think you were there. You just had a really heavy meal, like you're digesting, and it may take some time, but are you willing to like even pray, like, God, help me be willing to forgive my mom, and help me. I think that once we also take power for our own selves and realize that, I think it's more about, at least when I've been in circumstances like this where I've felt like a doormat, I'm mad at myself for not having stood up. But instead of looking at myself, I want to delegate that responsibility and that anger to someone else. So I use them as the punching bag. And it's like, I'm really mad at myself because I didn't do what I wanted, what I would have actually done in that circumstance. So it's a gift in the end, because I can assure you that whatever burn you're feeling, you'll probably start to stand up for yourself a little more now, or you'll learn how to, right? In a graceful way, not in like a, I'm going to now like show her, but in like a, no, mom, thank you for your suggestion, but that's not what I would like to do, or whatever it is that you learn to navigate with her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's two lessons from the Course in Miracles that what Christina just said reminded me of. One is, I am not a victim of the world I see. And the other one is, you are never upset for the reason you think. And so that guilt may seem to come from that situation, but it probably comes from before, from your childhood, or from somewhere in your childhood where you're holding on to guilt, and where you're holding on to resentment towards your mom. And so that because you're holding that within you, that is now manifested in the physical form, so you can heal it. And so it's there for you to
When I was 19, my mom used to say, I think he just wants to go to America just to get away from me. And I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, that was, she was, she's a difficult person to live with, with a lot of emotional challenges and stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, she couldn't attend to me when I was 1 and 3 because she was very depressed and everything. And yeah, when she said that when I was like 18, before I moved to the US, I was like, I never thought of that, but I think that sounds like a good reason to move to America, to get away from mom. But this is a good line. No, mom, thank you for your suggestion, but that's not what I want to do. Thank you, Christina.
Most definitely. I've had to practice a lot. Because I've always been like a stuffer. Like I've never been the person to like go to your face and like burn bridges and like give you a piece of my mind. Like I've always been keep it quiet. And I've had to learn, like, lean into it's almost like become a mantra for me recently, actually, where I'm like, lean into uncomfortable conversations. Like when I don't want to have an uncomfortable conversation with someone, go have the conversation. And you just start to stand your ground, again, in a loving and graceful way. And sometimes it comes out sideways, but I notice that the more that I practice just saying no and not having to justify myself, or saying, thank you, but no thank you, the more that it really doesn't come out sideways. It just is said. It is what it is. And people like it or people don't. And usually I've noticed most recently like a resistance because people weren't used to me saying no, no, thank you, or thank you for the suggestion, but no, thank you. And so when people start to see that you start to like kind of push back a little bit, or at least that's what they're perceiving, they're like, whoa, what's going on? Like, why aren't you like, going into a pretzel and doing what I want you to do? And you're like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. So there might be a little bit of kickback, but that's how we're all learning and growing, because I'm sure there's something there for her too to learn. So it's not just about us.
Yeah. Her point is, well, I did say it, but I didn't think you were going to follow through on it. I'm like, why wouldn't I after such messages you sent me? Like, well, I really didn't think you should at least ask me once. I'm like, how about just a thank you for shutting the account down? But anyway,
Yeah. Anyway, the trust the universe. Trust that whatever happen for your good and for everybody's good, and that God uses all for good. And so whatever it is that we went through, God is going to use for good.
yeah, I wouldn't have moved to this heaven had there not been some planning, some tax planning and stuff like that. I mean, this is heaven. This is priceless. The view from my balcony is just breathtaking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and you wouldn't have joined our group, and you wouldn't have had the awareness that there's something there that you maybe need to look at, that, like what James said, is bigger than what you think it is.
Yeah,
So much bigger than the account. The account was just like what stirred the pot so that you can kind of look at what's underneath it all. And then the beautiful opportunity to practice everything that we're learning, find, even if it's crawling your way to like forgiving your mom, it's like you'll make it there, like you will, even if it just takes some time.
thank you.
Yeah, and also pat yourself on the back that you're bringing up this stuff, because if you brought it up, it's because God knows that you're ready to deal with it, and so pat yourself on the back for being courageous enough to bring this stuff up, because the ego would have you judge yourself for bringing this kind of stuff up, because it tells you, well, you're not being spiritual enough, or you're not being a nice girl or a nice boy or not, whatever. No,
Yeah,
no, you're being courageous. You're courageously bringing this up so that it can be healed. And so whenever this happens, it's good. It's good. All right, folks. I think we are done for today. Thank you very much. And God willing, we'll see each other all on Sunday.
I'm going to be traveling for work. Are we still on recording? Oh.
Yeah, okay, let me start the recording.